A man is having a good time tossing duffel bags filled with products out of an airplane. He plans to skydive out of the plane with the final batch of goods and sell them. But his dreams are short-lived when he accidentally hits his head, causing him to lose consciousness and fall out without opening his parachute. A couple lies down on a rock beside the river. They start walking across the river but fail to see the bare print under their feet or the bag and tree containing the product. The couple gets up on a cliff when suddenly they notice a bear nearby. The bear notices them as they take their camera out and start taking pictures. It tends to start to inch closer to the couple. The couple starts to panic and run for their lives while the bear chases them. But unfortunately, the man twists his ankle. This ends up saving his life, as the bear goes after his wife. The TV news was talking about a man who died due to parachute failure. Police officers have arrived on the scene to investigate the incident, which has led to suspicion falling upon a man named Sidney. During the investigation, Officer Bob realizes that only a couple of packages have been recovered, indicating that there are additional bags of cocaine scattered around. Meanwhile, Sidney meets up with his assistant at the mall and assigns him to retrieve the missing coke with his son Eddie, who has been struggling with depression following the death of his wife. Sorry, a nurse who is preparing for her night shift instructs her teenage daughter, Dee Dee, to heat her breakfast in the morning and go to school. But instead of going to school, Dee Dee goes to the woods with her friend. Bob asks his partner if she can look after his dog while he's in another state investigating the case. Upon returning from work, the mother receives a phone call informing her that her daughter didn't show up at school. She figures out Dee Dee has gone to a waterfall, which is marked on the map in her backpack that she left in the yard. As the children journey toward their destination, they stumble upon a brick of cocaine. Being familiar with such packages from their school's drug education program, they quickly realize what they have found. Henry's lies to Dee Dee about trying cocaine once. Driven by the desire to experience the drug's effects, Dee Dee decides to consume the coke. Henry follows after her, but since he has no idea what he's doing, he's not too fond of the product. As the kids try to assess the value of the packages, they come across more bags hidden in the bushes, but the children remain unaware of the drugged-up bear wandering in the area. The children spot the bear and scream in horror. Meanwhile, David and Eddie are driving down the highway and discussing his strained relationship with his drug dealer father. In another part of town, a teenager goes into the ranger station in the National Forest and starts pocketing items. He tries to play it off, but she asks him to empty his pockets. With his quick thinking, he compliments the ranger, to which she responds that she's waiting for someone. Suddenly, a car pulls up. Peter, a wildlife activist, comes in, while Sari makes her way to the ranger station and visits the forest rangers, asking if they can take her to the waterfall. Liz and Peter were planning on going to the waterfall anyway and agreed to take Sari with them. Just as they left the station, David and Eddie arrive and park in the lot. While David goes to use the bathroom, some teenagers attempt to mug him. He takes on all of them, landing a good few punches and kicks, but is upset not because of the knife in his back, but because his favorite jersey got bloodied. Eddie wonders what's taking so long and discovers the three teenagers in a stall. He finds a brick of coke on one of them and splashes water on him to find out where the rest of the powder is. He isn't cooperating but eventually gives in after being threatened. Sari and the rangers find Henry on a tree and wonder what he's doing up there. Henry tells them about the bear and how it took Dee Dee. Suddenly they hear a rustle nearby, and Peter gets dragged into some bushes. He gets freed and crawls, only to find ripped bags of powder. Meanwhile, the bear sneaks up on Liz and throws her, but she manages to escape while the bear is distracted. Peter climbs the tree next to Henry while Sari remains behind. The 500-pound animal then starts to go after Henry by climbing the tree but stops due to its nose detecting the aroma of the powder, which Peter was covered in. The bear climbed up to Peter's tree and ate him up, and Sari and Henry used this as an opportunity to escape. The boy explains that he and Dee Dee stumbled upon the powder in the woods, and he recalls the bear taking her in a different direction. In a panic, they set out to search for her and came across something red on a boulder. It may be her daughter's blood, but upon closer inspection, they discover that Dee Dee had marked the path with paint. The two continue following the trail of paint and find her sweater. Sari and Henry stumbles across the hiker at the beginning. Henry rummages through his bag to find food while Sari asked if he had seen a little girl. He says yes and shows them the way. Liz returns to the station where the bathroom boys are. One of them has called 911, but they are interrupted by a knock on the door. The teenager opens the door, only to have the ranger mistakenly shoot him instead of the bear. They hear the bear going up on the roof and suspect he's coming down via the chimney. Bob arrives at the station but fails to realize the carnage going on in the station. He walks to a nearby gazebo and accidentally finds the stash of powder. The ambulance they called earlier arrives but struggles to open the door. They manage to get in and found a wounded Liz inside and another not so welcoming guest. The bear kicks the door down and pins one of the paramedics under it. He grabs a nearby bag and hits the bear with it, which causes it to go after the bag, hoping there might be coke in it. The other paramedic grabs Liz, and they drive off only to realize the bear is chasing them down. The bear manages to catch up to them and kills them one by one. As the dealers make their way to the stash location, the teenager comforts Eddie, who is still struggling with depression. When they arrive, the teen is dismayed to find the stash missing. David pulls the gun out, threatening to shoot him, just as Bob appears perched on the roof and orders David to drop the gun while Bob is figuring out a way to get down safely. David goes after the gun but ultimately has his fingers shot off. He goes after it a second time, and the bear shows up at the party and lays the top of Eddie. As David goes closer to the bear, a brick falls from his pocket, which causes it to wake up. The bear happily swallows the brick before dancing with Eddie. Bob diverts the attention of the bear by slicing open another brick and making it rain. He throws another brick into the woods, allowing the three to escape. But David isn't leaving without the coke. Suddenly Bob gets shot by Sid, who tells the dealers that his bosses will harm him if they don't get any. They go back to the gazebo to get the product, but find out Bob gave it to the bear. Bob's partner then appears, pointing a gun at the dealers, but we find out she has been working with them all along. They leave the detective to die on the gazebo as they go searching for the bear. The hiker leads them to a cave and gives them a flashlight before they enter the cave, where they find two cubs digging through a duffel bag containing the powder. Suddenly, Dee Dee calls out and goes to embrace her mom. She tells them she is unharmed except for her leg, but that's when they hear the cocaine bears roar. The three find an opening leading to a waterfall, and Sari notices they aren't very high up. Sid and the others find the cave, but not before stumbling into the remains of the hiker. They go inside and find an empty duffel bag, but when Sari hears them and tries to hide, she is unsuccessful. Sid orders Eddie to grab the duffel bag that's stuck on a branch, but in the process, the cubs smell the cocaine and go after him. He tells Eddie to shoot the cubs, but he refuses. He tries to give his gun to David so he can shoot the cubs, but he's sorry, catches it. A roar from above catches their attention, and the kids jump along with the two dealers. Sid manages to land a shot on the bear, which causes it to fall off a cliff. As Sid tries to grab the duffel again, a brick falls out and explodes, which wakes up the angry bear. It climbs back up and sits down before throwing him off the cliff. The five escape, and Sari goes over to help David, who has been grazed by a bullet before he jumped off. The morning, Sari and the kids head back home on their route. Police cars arrive to inspect the ambulance disaster. Meanwhile, Bob's partner gives his dog to Eddie to keep in the final scene of the movie. And another group of hikers has been seen documenting this, but it spots them and stares while breathing heavily.